Hello, this is the Mild Opinion Podcast. I am Logan,
And I'm Luke.
and today we are going to be talking about some of the 2025 movies that are coming out that we're excited for. I think it's going to be kind of interesting.
Yep. So we put together kind of a small list of kind of like some of the bigger upcoming movies. So we're going to start with one that's coming out real soon, March 7th, Mickey 17 with Robert Pattinson. It's directed by Bong Joon-ho, who I think what he's most known for is Parasite, which I haven't seen.
Yeah.
But I know that movie's like a lot of people say like it's fantastic. So I haven't seen that, but I know that that's a big point as to why Mickey 17 is going to get a lot of coverage. And also it just kind of looks real out of pocket to a lot of other sci-fi stuff recently.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting from what I know about it, just the whole cloning thing and him dying and coming back to life repeatedly and so on and so forth. I think it's going to be really neat. I also think that based off of the trailer and everything, the way that's shot and showing like how he's died and all these different settings and all that is going to be really fun and entertaining in kind of a chaotic way, it seems like.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the big draws to it, though, is it looks like it's going to be a really fun movie. Whether or not it, knocks us out of the park with the storyline or whatever, I mean, I'm sure it'll be great. But either way, I think the premise and what's going on and how they're going to show it is going to be a big selling point for it.
Yeah, and I think too that they have like two really strong leads coming in with it. So like Robert Pattinson and Steven Yeun, and I know that there's and I think Mark Ruffalo is supposed to be kind of like the bad guy in it. I think with with those actors specifically, Steven Yeun, we know most from like Invincible and like The Walking Dead, but like Robert Pattinson, especially in the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, has started to get into a lot of roles that I really enjoyed. That I didn't really expect from him, because he used to be kind of that guy that you're just like, oh, that's the guy from like the Twilight movies, and it's that guy from that one Harry Potter movie. I feel like his name has started to garner a lot of weight to it as being a leading man, and I think that that's another draw for me when when we're like looking at this movie, is that I initially, when I heard he's going to be in this movie called Mickey 17, they released like a synopsis of it, and I like looked at it briefly and was like, okay, that sounds like a pretty good movie. And then as I've watched like the trailer and stuff, it looks like way less serious and more like it's, I'm assuming it'll have some serious stuff to it just by what I'm seeing, but it looks like it's having a lot of fun with itself and with its cast, and kind of just with its own concept that I wasn't necessarily expecting from just the synopsis.
Yeah, I agree. And I also, to go back to what you said about Robert Pattinson having a career that's kind of shifted a little bit with the stuff that he's been in and different things like that, I think it's really allowed him to blossom as an actor, show off his range, specifically because he's been in a lot of really interesting roles. Like, it's not super like cut and dry movies. Like, it's really like different concepts, different stuff, such as this one, or like in the last episode we talked about him in The Lighthouse, and just so the real interesting movies with the real interesting concepts and everything like that. I kind of think that that's shown or helped him show his ability and his range as an actor, which is really cool and impressive. Which is also why I think that he'll be a good fit for this movie, and he should be a very big selling point for this movie.
Sure. And I know for him recently, and like you said, like we discussed it in the last episode, is like his role in The Lighthouse is great. But in movies I've seen with him in the past year or so that like I've caught up on that I hadn't seen with him in the past decade, I've really enjoyed the kinds of roles he's taking. And I think I've seen it before where like he's purposely been doing roles like that to show that he's not just like a typecast guy, like to show how much range he has. So like, yeah, he's in The Lighthouse and all these kinds of movies, but then it's like now he's Batman. So we'll see him come back at some point whenever the delays on that catch up. But he's just a name for me where it's like when I know he's in a movie, I'm like, that gets me excited to go see it, you know?
I agree. And I think as I already stated, that will probably be a big selling point for a lot of people on it, aside from just the unique concept.
Yeah. I also think Steven Yeun and Mark Ruffalo, I've never really seen him in like a super evil or like bad guy kind of role, but I feel like I've never seen something where I've disliked his character.
Yeah.
Apart from Marvel, I really only know him from like the Now You See Me, the Magic Heist movie.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed his character in that. So I'm excited to see him more, and it looks like he's gonna be playing like a pretty decent bad guy for that movie.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see.
I agree. I think Mark Ruffalo as an actor is good. I don't know if he necessarily blows me away as an actor, but also he's well known enough that I feel like that him as a villain should, also garner some weight into getting people to go to the theaters and see it. Because, I mean, it's not like he's just some random nobody or like a bad actor. It's just, for me, kind of hit or miss with his characters and stuff. But if he's, well written and a good villain, then, I mean,
yeah.
Yet to be seen.
It comes down to like, with anything nowadays, you just want it to be, like, believable.
Mm-hmm.
So, hopefully, this movie delivers on that. Because, like, again, this is, like, an original thing that's relatively original concept.
Yeah,
It seems like a lot of mix and match of stuff that's been done before and a lot of new ideas to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
What is the next on the agenda for movies?
So next we're gonna talk about The Death of a Unicorn, which is A24's next movie, and A24 is kind of making this reputation for itself of like these. I feel like they kind of started with like indie projects is where they got big, but now they're kind of taking that to like indie ideas where it's like something that a big studio might not go for from like a newbie or like new kind of idea wise. They're kind of starting to take ideas like that and roll with them, and like this, The Death of a Unicorn, it's like right in the title, it's like it's dealing with unicorns, but they're A24 defying it, so it's kind of based in a real life scenario, and I'll let you take it because you know more about this than I do.
I am very, very excited for this movie. I think it's going to be a really fun movie, and I think there's a chance it's just really stupid. But I think if you're going to go see it, that's, it's somewhat expected.
Yeah.
Because, also the cast is pretty stacked. Jenna Ortega, Paul Rudd is the leads. Will Poulter's a side character. So, how can you go wrong with such a fun cast?
Yeah. I feel like, too, like, Jenna Ortega, specifically in the past few years, has, like, really started to, like, blow up. Like, everybody's like, oh, yeah, I know her. And Paul Rudd's been around for, like, ever now, and I don't even know how old he actually is now, because everybody's always saying, like, the man doesn't age. And as far as I can tell, he's aging really well, however old he is.
Yeah.
But with this being an A24 movie, since you know more about it, I'll like kind of bounce some questions off of you. Like, does it look more like comedic, or does it look like it's taking itself really seriously?
No, it is. They're classifying it as a horror comedy.
Okay.
So, from the trailer and what I know about it, I think Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd are father and daughter, and they're going to, I think it's some sort of business meeting or something. It's at like a mansion out in the woods somewhere, something like that. But as they're going through, Paul Rudd runs over a unicorn. So obviously they're both, shocked, whatever. They just ran over a unicorn. So they take it to the mansion where this business meeting is going on with some of the other characters or whatever. And from what it looks like, they do tests on it and find out that it's blood or it's DNA. Something about it can cure cancer.
Yeah.
So then, after that, they want to use that, obviously for money and to, cure cancer or whatever. They find out that it's not dead, and it's very angry.
Oh boy.
and starts its rampage.
Oh boy. As is the case with most unicorns that would get run over, I would
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah.
All right. So, in terms of like A24, I remember when you told me about this, like they have some like really out there stuff, and they have stuff where it's like you don't understand even what it is until you watch it, but this just sounds like it sounds like you won't understand what it is until you watch it in terms of like what the end goal of
Yeah.
this idea is. So I think it sounds really goofy, but at the same time it's like, well, that'll be the only thing that's like that in theaters probably at that time, so that'll be, that'll be pretty interesting for them.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of what makes me so drawn to it and why I'm so excited about it, is just because it's such a unique idea. And I mean, there's movies with unicorns and, fairy tale stuff, folklore stuff all the time. But specifically, just everything about it is just crazy. Running over a unicorn, taking it, finding out it cures cancer, it goes on a rampage. It sounds like it's going to be a wild ride, and I'm all here for it. I can't wait for this movie to come out.
Yeah, I also feel like too with the comedy aspects of it too, like Paul Rudd has such a I feel like in a lot of his comedy, well, he's like mostly comedy, I'd say. He has such a like nonchalant sense of humor. So, I don't know specifically with like Jenna Ortega, her like humor, like her humorous kind of characteristics as an actor, but if that's kind of what they're going for in this, I feel like she, at least from what we've seen, will have like the dedication to it that she'll deliver on it, and I think that's just interesting. I'd never really pair Paul Rudd and her together for something like this.
And I feel like, well, it's some of the stuff that I've seen with Jenna Ortega. She has funny moments. She can play, funny characters. Sarcastic usually is her kind of go-to style of character. But I think it'll be a really good pairing, seeing them two together and watching them interact in these scenarios and stuff. But I also would like to just throw out there that I don't think that this movie's going to be a movie where you go and it knocks your socks off and it's just the best movie you've ever seen. No. But I think that based off of the concept and what we know about it with the characters and everything, it's going to be a fun movie, and that is pretty much all it is. And that's what they're marketing as.
Yep.
Just a really crazy idea with some good actors, and then, it's just a good time.
Anymore, too, I like going into a movie theater kind of with the expectation of just, like, I kind of just want to see a fun movie or, like, know that the movie I see is just, like, I want to just have fun with it, not necessarily be putting the weight of the world on this movie to be the greatest thing I've ever seen. So, I mean, for sure. And, again, just A24 is starting to get that kind of, like, genre of its own thing where it's, like, you kind of know what you're getting, and what you're getting is to not know what you're getting and get blown away by it in a weird way.
And I mean, I think the film industry itself, it's all art, it's all, passion, and that's the reason we, do stuff like this. It's awesome. But I feel like a lot of times now, it seems like any project that's big with big actors and stuff like that is just trying to go for the, super serious, award-winning, giant movie, where something like this is kind of like a breath of fresh air because they're not taking it, like, it seems like they're not taking themselves too seriously. They're not, trying to make it an award-winning movie or anything like that. They're just putting out a fun movie for the viewers to have fun with. And I mean, I think that needs to continue with the stuff that they do, because a lot of their concepts are very, very original. And I think that they should keep going down that path and not stray from it, because it's working for them quite a bit.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that's one we'll go see.
Yeah.
It's just goofy. So that's coming out March 28th. All right.
All right.
So now we're going to jump over to kind of, where there's usually always like the big talk movies are like the superhero movies that are coming out every year. So we're going to start on the Marvel side of things here, and two as two of the big movies coming out this year from Marvel, after Captain America: Brave New World, which we just saw, and we both had fun with it.
Yep.
Is first we're gonna see Thunderbolts, and then afterwards is Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
So Thunderbolts, which comes out May 2nd, is all about kind of these, I don't want to say like forgotten, but like kind of these characters where it's been like, what happened with this person, because these people are still running around out there, and kind of just throwing them into this wild scenario against a hopelessly outclassing threat.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited for this movie.
I'm pretty excited for it as well. I think that as far as Marvel movies go, they kind of, I feel like with this movie, they kind of know that this is also similar to what we were just talking about with the last movie we talked about, that it's going to be more of like a fun movie, like the characters, the way that it looks like they're going to interact and everything, comedically and everything, and also it's not super serious. I mean, there's serious concepts. It all plays into the big scheme and storyline of the MCU, but the movie itself seems like it's going to be a really good time as far as Marvel movies go. Not super serious, kind of more relaxed type of movie with a bunch of really interesting and, you know, funny characters.
Yeah.
So I think that is very exciting. It's kind of a little change of pace from some of the Marvel stuff that we've had here recently.
Sure. And, you know, you were talking about, like, kind of with, like, A24 and Death of a Unicorn kind of having it as, like, a breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Marvel right now, I feel like that's been their biggest drawback, is that everything kind of seems, like, spent with what they have. So whenever they have these, like, new big deal things come out, it's like, well, are they going to fumble it, is kind of the first question on everybody's mind. But I feel like this movie, so far, with their most recent trailer drop, I feel like is when it really started to, like, get people like, oh, this kind of looks like good. And to me, I kind of get the vibe from just watching the trailers that it will be kind of a breath of fresh air feeling, and that it's kind of one that they are having some fun with, and it's not like taking it too far, because I feel like too with Marvel, a lot of their stuff after Endgame is they had a little bit too much fun with it without realizing how that would take away from certain things. So I feel like it's kind of going back to that good balance of having some fun with it, but also like trying to deliver on some loose ends and some good storytelling with it. And I think you and I are both really interested in Sentry and Void as kind of like the threat that these characters will be facing. And I don't really dislike any of these characters. I feel like some of them I'm more invested in. Like, I like Florence Pugh as kind of the new Black Widow, and I like Bucky because he's been around forever. And the rest of them I'm sure I'll enjoy. But I feel like those two characters and then Void are like the reason I'm going to see this.
Yeah, I agree. Because out of all of them, they're probably the most interesting, and I guess in terms of, you know, like the comics and stuff like that, like they have the most to offer in this movie, I think. But I also just think that honestly, it just seems like a fun movie. I feel like Marvel knows that it's not going to be one that's going to blow everybody away. It's not going to be an award-winning film, kind of like how we were talking about with Death of a Unicorn. And I think they've acknowledged that. So they're like, you know what? Let's just balls to the walls, fun movie, fun superhero movie, or more so, I guess, a vigilante movie.
Yeah.
But, you know, still, in general, just a fun movie that I feel like shouldn't be taken super seriously. I mean, it will, because it's a Marvel movie, and you know how everybody gets anytime a Marvel movie comes out.
Yeah.
They either all love it or they hate it, and then
Yeah.
they'll talk about it on the internet until the next one comes out.
Sure.
But I'm hoping that with this one, I kind of just hope that people aren't too critical of it, just because I feel like being critical of it or analyzing and, you know, giving your opinions and thoughts on everything like that would kind of take away from the experience itself, because it seems like it's not going to be the type of movie where like that's necessary. It seems like the type of movie that you just go, enjoy it, and have fun.
Sure. And I think it too, in the larger scheme of things will kind of show you where these characters might end up like in the future. So I'm sure like excuse me, like Yelena, like Florence Pugh's character, will not this won't be like her last thing.
Mm-hmm.
Bucky I'm not sure about anymore because he's been around for a really really long time. And then these kind of like newbie characters like John Walker
Mm-hmm.
and Red Guardian, and both played by like David Arbor and Wyatt Russell. Like
Yeah.
they're not unknowns, so I'm just curious to see like where it's gonna place each of these characters at the end, because the vibes we're getting from the trailer too is like they're all carrying around the weight of the world from like their pasts,
Yeah.
and they're kind of like using that as almost like a like the story of this seems kind of like redemptive for a
Yeah.
lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see where they'll end up with that and how that'll play into them going up against an unstoppable
Yeah.
threat and what was going to happen with that.
Yeah, I am very curious to see how that goes down and what possible plan that team could have for taking down Void.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So next from Marvel, this is probably one that has the biggest weight on its shoulders right now of incoming Marvel movies is Fantastic Four, coming out July 25th of this year. And, it's already got a big cast. It's got a lot of... It just has a lot of baggage and, like, pressure on its shoulders because of the history of the movies made about the Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the mid-early 2000s movies, they are, like... I enjoy them, but they are kind of just like, yeah, this is an early 2000s Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And then I absolutely despise the 2010s Fantastic Four movie. But I really like the Fantastic Four. So I'm very curious, too, about this one just because of the aesthetic of it, kind of looking like the retro 60s, 50s space exploration vibe. And, yeah, the cast, I think, is going to do a great job with it. I just hope it's not Marvel casting them because it's like, oh, here's a big name, which there's reason to, but I hope it's also that they're invested in it.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say with the Fantastic Four movie, it is the exact opposite of what I was talking about with Thunderbolts, because that movie, with the amount of weight on it, like you were talking about, and the cast and the really unique retro futuristic styling of it and everything, and just the concept of the Fantastic Four making their debut in the MCU in general, this has an entirely different scenario ahead of it than Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts, I mean, it's going to be judged out the wazoo. All the critics are either going to love it or hate it, and I mean, it's going to have to do well for Marvel, or else it might be a time to go back to the drawing board.
Sure. Yeah, and with this too, the whole thing is the original Avengers are all but spent out right now, so it's like we have all these new characters that are going to be carrying the weight of like the reputation of the past Avengers and like those movies. But the Fantastic Four coming now, this is like one of their big cards left to play, in addition to like the X-Men, and then those like really top tier characters like Ghost Rider and stuff. That'll draw in big audiences just because of the names of the characters. So in addition to the Fantastic Four having the weight of the past movie failures on its shoulders, it also has the weight of carrying the next generation of the MCU and like another major introduction to a major team that's going to be here for the long haul, most likely. And bringing in a plethora of new opportunities for villains and other characters to come out of their own storylines.
Yeah, and as we were talking about how much weight it has and all that, I will say that I personally think that it looks really cool, and I'm hoping that it is great with a storyline to match how cool it looks. But I am super excited for this. I think this is, one of the biggest Marvel movies in, recent history. Um, and I mean, I would place my excitement for this above anything Marvel in the past, 3 or 4 years, except for like Deadpool and Wolverine. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think as much as this movie has, or as much weight as this movie has on its shoulders, I really just hope it's great because I'm super excited for it.
Yeah. And I think too the difficulty of they did it with Guardians of the Galaxy. They introduced like this new team, and especially with that, nobody knew who really they were all that well before the first movie of Guardians of the Galaxy came out. But they were able to like make them like almost household names of characters and like who they were and their comic book backstories and such. The Fantastic Four people already like know that for the most part. So I think that they said that this movie is not going to be another origin story, that they're kind of just like starting off the bat. I hope that they take the time, and this is like what I think could be the biggest threat to the movie not doing well. I hope they take the time to give each character a moment to shine or to like grow throughout the movie. And this was one of my problems with the Fantastic Four movie in 2015. I think it was 2015. Is it felt like a movie that was all about kind of Mr. Fantastic failing and the Thing hating him, and then it was just like, oh, and here's Johnny Storm and Sue Storm off to the side, and they have like a few things to say about it. But I felt like there wasn't anything keeping me in it for any of the characters. And not that I don't like Miles Teller. I think he's a great actor, but like it just was not the right choice. It wasn't. I wouldn't even say it's his fault. He did what he did with what he had. It was just the movie did not land. So especially after that and how disappointing that movie was for me, this one I hope is something special.
You need this. You need this redemption.
And hopefully too, after how long this movie has been being talked about and how many rumors of like castings and such. So there was like Multiverse of Madness comes out, everybody's like, oh, John Krasinski showed up as Mr. Fantastic, so it's clearly gonna be him now. Then there was like at least 5-10 different actors that everybody was like, well, this person is now going to be Mr. Fantastic, and then it was just like, nope, it's Pedro Pascal. And it was like, okay, but hopefully that time that it has taken for this movie to come to the theaters when it does has not just been worries and reshootings and making different decisions. Hopefully it has been, let's take the time to do this and do it right. And that's not even to say it's something that'll resonate with everybody, but as long as it's impactful enough to, in the right ways to the right fans, like, it just has to be an enjoyable movie at the bottom line is what it has to be.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should probably get on to our next movie, but before, I would just like to skip back to the casting choices for Mr. Fantastic and everything. I do like Pedro Pascal, but I really, really wanted the rumors of Glenn Howerton, Mr. Fantastic, to be true. I needed the Dennis Reynolds Fantastic Four.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know how I would have reacted. That would have been incredible. And terrifying.
Yes.
Alright, yeah. Moving on. Okay, so jumping on to the other side of superhero things right now. We're going to look at DC, which is starting out with Superman, and that comes out July 11th, and it's under the new direction of the new DC. Like, this is the big introduction to it. So this is also to James Gunn's new DC, so this is a very, like, trial run for him of, like, how people are going to react to this, and I, so far, after that first trailer came out for this, I think it looks great.
I do as well. I think, don't get me wrong, I like the Man of Steel movies and everything like that, but I've already noticed from the trailers and everything that this movie looks very comic booky, very comic book superhero, and I think that is awesome, because, I like the seriousness of Man of Steel and everything, and all of those DC movies and all that, like, they were good, but this looks like a lot more fun and, like, comic booky, and, like, that's, I feel like that's what DC needs because that was a big thing that a lot of people said they lacked. Because the old DC, a lot of the movies, it was just real serious superhero. I mean, just throwing superheroes at you.
Sure.
This seems like a lot more fun, at least to me personally.
Yeah. And I kind of like to. It looks like it's starting kind of not at the very beginning of a new universe because that's been like done to death. How many times have there been like attempted shared universes now? But with this specifically, like in the trailer, you can see a version of Green Lantern, you can see Hawkgirl, you can see Mr. Terrific,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like people are saying, "Oh, it's too much," and like, "Why is it this Green Lantern?" and stuff like that. I honestly, that's the kind of stuff that I don't really have that big of an issue with. That I think is gonna make or break this movie, because it kind of makes me feel like yes, it's a new universe, but it's also like very early, and it seems to me like it'll make it feel kind of like comfortable and like already lived in a little bit.
Yeah.
And with things like Nathan Fillion showing up as Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, like people are mad about it. It's like, no, but there's like, there's like 8 Green Lanterns or like that are humans even. So it's like this is the beginning, you know. And I don't think that's gonna be what makes or breaks the movie. I just hope. And it's like you said too, like the Man of Steel and like Zack Snyder movies and stuff are so like gritty and dark, and they take themselves so seriously. And it seems like they're kind of taking a step back to like make it yes modern, but also make it like back to its roots of like Superman is supposed to be like a hopeful icon, not like a everyday threat that people are constantly walking around terrified of.
Yeah.
You know.
And I mean, they address that in the Zack Snyder movies and stuff, and I mean that would be a normal reaction. But also, in those movies, that was one gripe that I had with the Man of Steel movies, is that it was so dark and gritty that I couldn't get past the fact that it just didn't seem like it was like a Superman movie. Because you see Superman, it's colorful, hope. You know what I mean? The guy who's can stop anything and save the whole world without lifting a finger. And then, Man of Steel, everybody's scared of him. He seemed more villainish than he did like, the almighty Superman, which I think is something that this movie looks like. The new Superman movie I think is going to be really good with that. It looks, all the colors look bright. It looks like he's going to be a real symbol of like hope and peace, and I think that will be really good for their new direction.
Sure. And I think to kind of avoid going back to that like evil Superman stuff, there's a lot to be done with it, but unfortunate, or like not even unfortunately, like there's a lot of evil Superman characters out there right now. So there's like Homelander and the Boys and like Omni-Man and Invincible, and it's just like we don't need another story, especially after we saw it attempted with the last Justice League movies coming around. We don't need another evil Superman, and it's kind of a weird thing to think about that like the refreshing side of Superman is to go back to his roots of just being like the good above everything guy.
Yeah. I feel like they've kind of been addressing the bad superhero thing a little bit too much, and not even just DC, but just in media in general. It's kind of feels like they're beating a dead horse with that concept. So going back to the original almighty Superman, world's greatest hero, and everything like that, I mean, that's what we need. We need just a good Superman superhero. That.
And it looks like that's what it's bringing.
Yeah,
and I'm also excited about Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor in it. Like, I think Nicholas Hoult gets typecast a bit too much as kind of like the guy who almost gets like walked over, but I feel like everything I've seen him in, I'm like, you can tell he's got a lot of range to it. He just needs the right role to it. So to see him in kind of like a villainous role, I think will be really cool.
Yeah, a villainous role, him in a position of power, I think will be good for him as an actor to show his range, but also I think it'll be enjoyable for the viewers as well.
Yeah. And just one more thing too about like the evil superhero stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that they do keep like a healthy distance away from it. Not that like it doesn't have a place in any superhero
Mm-hmm.
media, but I think right now the places that's the strongest are the places that have established that from the ground level that that's
Yeah.
what's going on. So, you know, Amazon shows The
Mm-hmm.
Boys, and Invincible. That's where
Yeah.
those things really shine.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so switching things up a little bit
Mm-hmm.
now to a fun one. We're gonna talk about the Minecraft movie. It comes out April 4th of this
Yep.
year, and it stars Jack Black and Jason Momoa.
I I don't even know what to think about the Minecraft movie, just because they can do so much with it. I mean, obviously from the trailers and everything, it looks super goofy. I think it's gonna be kind of like what we were talking about, Death of a Unicorn. Very different style wise, obviously, but I think it's one of those where it's just gonna be a fun movie for everybody. Kind of just, I really don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the main thing that concerns me about it is that it just looks like it has a lot of really cringy aspects to it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like if they find the right balance of that and aren't just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to navigate that because
Yeah.
if that's the whole movie and not just what it's showing us in the trailers is like the really cringy stuff, then like it might be difficult to watch. But I guess the real challenge of that movie is like, will it live up to the expectations of people who have played Minecraft, since it's like one of the biggest games ever
Yeah.
created in terms of how many people have played it. um so it's like, you know, the first trailer comes out and it's like Jack Black, and everybody's like, man, Jack Black looks nothing like what he should to play this
Mhm.
role. And then everybody's like, and why is Jason Momoa here with all these kids?
Yeah.
So I think just the big question mark of the movie is like, what is the the goal? What is the
Yeah.
goal of what they're trying to do with it? You know?
Yeah, and I think from the way that it looks like it's being marketed towards the younger generation. Some kids, people who'd be playing Minecraft now and all that. Which, not saying that you can't play Minecraft. Everybody plays Minecraft, but just it seems like it may be kind of marketed to a younger generation, which is fine. But I'm hoping that their idea of marketing it to a younger generation isn't just like, oh yeah, here's these characters, they're in the Minecraft world. Now let's just throw a bunch of brain rot at you until the movie's done. You know what I mean? Like how you said with the cringy stuff, some of it's just like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's all gonna land.
Yep.
Which I don't know.
And another thing with it too is like, Minecraft's been around for however long, but it's like a lot of parents and stuff that are gonna like take their kids to see this are gonna be like, what am I watching? Like,
Yeah.
if it's not, I guess I guess yeah, that's another challenge, is how do we make this open to all viewers, not
Yeah.
only people who have like played Minecraft. But I think something that's alienating the people who have played Minecraft is the animation looks just like
Mm-hmm.
odd, and it's like it's not real life. It's not like it is in the game, and it just has like a weird texture to it.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's turning a lot of people away. But also there's people who are saying like they love the way it looks, and
Yeah.
so I go so back and forth on it. I'm definitely gonna watch it,
Yeah.
but I go back and forth, and I'm like, does it look good? Like, there's some stuff where I'm like, okay, I kind of like that, but there's other stuff where I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, the the vibes that I kind of get from just the trailer is it kind of reminds me of like a little bit how the new Jumanji movies feel and stuff. It's
Yeah.
like style wise and everything. So I'm like, is it just gonna be like a family friendly adventure movie, or is there gonna be a compelling story to it?
Yeah,
I don't
and
know.
I know nothing about Minecraft story mode the game. Like, I think it's a
Yeah.
separate game.
Yeah.
I know nothing about that, so I don't think a lot of Minecraft players do.
Yeah.
So I hope they don't rely too heavily on that too.
Well, I think if what I heard was correct, that they are kind of relying. I think the big bad in the movie is actually supposed to be the like main villain from the Minecraft storyline game, which I think will be
Which
kind
is
of
Ender Dragon.
no. Not that. It's like a I don't even know. It's like the something.
Oh, like from story mode.
Yeah,
Okay.
like it's I don't even know who it is. Like the Hog King or something like
Oh,
something random. I don't even
okay.
know.
Of course,
But
yes, the Hog King.
yeah.
Yep.
But I'm hoping that even if that's the case, they kind of at least establish that a little bit because, like you said, I'm not sure that a lot of even OG Minecraft players are gonna know what they're talking
Yeah.
about if that's the case.
I
But,
think a lot of the fun that the movie will be, though, because I'm expecting it to at least have some enjoyable stuff to it, is like there's going to be a lot of like inside jokes, I guess, to people who have played the game of like problems you run into or like just goofy things you have to deal with. That I think those will be fun to see, like real people like Jack Black and Jason Momoa react to.
yeah, and just
Yeah.
picking out that little thing, those little hidden details to watch for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of here nor there on the Minecraft movie. I don't
Same.
really know.
It's going to be a wait and see one. We'll wait
Yeah.
and see.
I'm not going to be jumping out of my seat to run to the Minecraft movie, but I will certainly see it just for curiosity's sake.
Yep, absolutely. All right, switching it up one more time to kind of something that we have as a personal choice of ours. There's a movie coming out in what is believed to be August 15th. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, so it's right now just believed to come out in August. Is Nobody 2, which is a sequel to Nobody, which is a movie starring Bob Odenkirk in which he goes on it, or he is, I think I remember it is, he's kind of like a expert operative,
Yeah.
kind of ex-militant guy who started a suburban life and had this hidden life who has to bring it back up once his house gets robbed. What stood out to us about the first one is he has the most bizarre demeanor of a lot of action movie heroes, but it's kind of like a John Wick-esque story of like going on a revenge tear, which leads eventually to mafia and skilled assassins and such.
Yeah, I really don't even know what to expect from Nobody 2, but and also for anyone watching or listening, we're not saying that Nobody 2 is going to be a blockbuster and that you have to go see it or anything like that. It's just a really, I don't know, personal movie to us because we watched together and enjoyed it, had fun with it. Out of all the awesome movies that we've watched and we've seen, that movie gets brought up quite a bit for one reason or another. It was just so strange, and the concept and everything about it, like none of that was strange. It was just
the demeanor of Bob Odenkirk and his motivations throughout the movie are just kind of like, all right, like you kind of like you understand it in the moment, but at the same time you're like, why is he acting this way while he's just going on this like beating up thugs spree?
Yeah.
But apart from that, it's got good action sequences. It's got some great fist fights, and you know, Bob Odenkirk, if you've seen him in anything, I don't think I've seen him in a single thing I've ever thought was boring at all. It's not a boring movie, and you can at least watch it and enjoy it for him. So Nobody 2 is expected to come out in August, and we'll go see it.
Yeah, I have no idea what to expect. I have no clue what it's even going to be about. I'm assuming probably the exact same thing, just a different story.
Yep.
And if that's the case, I'm very excited. Just watching Bob Odenkirk beat up a bunch of thugs.
Yep. Yeah. And honestly, too, just the last thing about it I'll say is there's not a concrete way to necessarily explain what we mean by his bizarre demeanor in the movie. It's just, you gotta see it.
You just have
it's hard to explain.
You have to watch it and take it for what it is.
Yep.
And by no means are we saying that, the first Nobody was a bad movie, because it was fantastic. It's one of those where it's a little bit different than a traditional action movie, but it doesn't really stray too far away from a traditional action movie. It's just Bob Odenkirk playing a character with a weird demeanor.
Yep.
Beating people up.
Yep. Well, these are just a few of the big movies coming out in 2025. We also are just going to, real quick, touch on, for each of us, we both are going to say, real quick, something we're excited about beyond 2025. So, you want to kick us off here with yours?
Beyond 2025. I mean, obviously, I am very excited for what's coming next with Marvel and everything. I mean, we're both huge Marvel movie lovers. And they've been talking about starting up the filming and everything, I guess the idea of starting up the filming for the new Avengers Doomsday. So that's really cool. I'm excited for that. I'm hoping that whatever they do with that, they nail it. And then I guess besides that, probably Werewolf, Robert Eggers, just because, as we've talked about in the last episode, he is probably my favorite director at the moment, and I can assume nothing but greatness from a movie where he gets to go all out on a werewolf story. So,
sure,
those are probably my most exciting, probably two of the things I'm most excited for.
Sure. Well, something I'm really excited for is Christopher Nolan's next movie. I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan. His next movie is The Odyssey, which I feel like for him is a very big step in a different direction for what he normally does. But, with his cinematography and the feel of his movies and already a huge cast. He's already got Matt Damon, Robert Pattinson, Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, and Tom Holland lined up. And there's more. But I'm really excited for that. And also, I'm also looking forward to, if it starts to pan out well, like I hope it does, Marvel leading up to its next big flagship movies, like the next Avengers, where we get to see everything that's been building up for what feels like ages now kind of land back in the same spot and see where it's going.
Yeah, to tie in both of those things, both Marvel and The Odyssey, did you see that Marvel has decided to push back their expected release of Spider-Man by a week, so it doesn't compete with Odyssey opening week? Yeah,
it's gonna be big blockbusters coming out. Is that 2026? I think is when those are
2026. I think. I think if I remember, the Odyssey is predicted to come out July 17th or something like that, 2026. And Spider-Man, they pushed it back to the 28th, I think.
Okay. Well, yeah. As big as 2025 is shaping up to be with some big releases, 2026 I feel like might even be bigger.
Yeah, I think, well, because there's those two movies. I think from what I've read that Werewolf, even, I don't know if everybody will, be running to see that movie like they did with Nosferatu and everything. But if they do decide that, everyone likes Eggers as a director and he's on the come up, that they do want to see that movie, that's probably, I think that one's 2026. So that would be another big one.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been the Mild Opinion episode 3. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.